Hi. In this video I'm going to explain a little bit about the long-term aspects of being retired as far as your physical health is concerned. Now, physical health in retirement is super duper important. It's probably the most important thing of the lot. If you aren't physically fit and well into retirement, then you're going to have a pretty miserable time. In a very earlier video, I mentioned something about a saying that they had when I was in the Navy way back in the 1950s. And that saying was, "The man who doesn't drink or smoke is always well." And of course that was the case, because even though most of us smoked in those days and drank, we were young people. You get over your hangover pretty quickly, and as far as smoking, well, the thought that you might get some sort of sickness from it down the track was so far down the road you didn't give it a second thought. I'm glad I did. I started smoking around about the time I started work at 15, and I didn't give it up until I was 45. I'm so glad I did, because maybe I wouldn't be here if I hadn't done it. But back to you. Now, the man who doesn't drink or smoke is always well. That referred to people under 30 or under. The first 30 years of life. What about the next 30 years of life? 30 to 60, same 30 years. Big difference, isn't it? Big difference between being 30 and being 60. What do you think about the big difference between being 60 and being 90? I'm 88. In less than 2 years' time, I will be 90. So I can talk about this, I think, with some sort of credibility. We know that life goes in cycles. We see it all the time. The seasons of the year, flowers coming into being, budding, and then losing their leaves, wilting and dying. And yet we look at our own lives and we don't seem to realise it's the same. We have a cycle of life. We blossom, we thrive, and then we gradually wilt. Isn't that a great word, wilt? But we can hold that wilting back in abeyance by doing certain things. One of those things, of course, is making sure we go to see the doctor when we feel a bit crook. Take the medicine. Have the needles. Do all of these things. And of course, even with those things, it's not until we get into our 50s usually that we start to realise our bodies are not quite what they used to be. All sorts of little ailments start, and they get worse. Now, we can hold those ailments back by doing certain things. One of the things I've done, probably started in my middle 30s, is yoga stretches. Yoga stretches. That means you take a pose, it might be sitting down, holding your feet, and waiting for 60 seconds. Now, you might think, well, why that? Why do you do that? Because it allows the blood to drain through areas where it doesn't normally drain through, and perhaps wash away calcium deposits. You notice when people get older, they get stiff in the back, they can hardly sort of bend properly, can't touch their toes, get a bit of a hump in the shoulders. Why? Why is that? That's just posture. Posture held so many times, it's become so habitual and hardened that it's very hard for them to move out of that. So yoga stretches are very important. As for the smoking, if you smoke, give it up. If you vape, give that up too. It might give you some temporary relief right now, and each time you do it, down the track you'll wish you hadn't. You will wish you hadn't. emphysema might be just the gentle one. You can get all sorts of problems from heavy smoking over the years, so give it away. Okay, it's a lecture, but at least I'm practicing what I preach, because I used to smoke, as I said. When I was down in the Antarctic on an Antarctic base, there were 20 of us there wintering over. Only 2 of us smoked. I was one of them. I used to think I was so smart, getting a big half Corona cigar and smoking it after dinner. People were saying, Tom, give it away, give it away. And eventually I did. But a friend of mine who was down there with me, he used to be a heavy smoker. He gave it away. He was always onto me. When we came back some years later, he went up to New Guinea. It was very stressful up there. He started smoking again. And you know the result? Not lung cancer, cancer of the throat. So give it away. Smoking is really bad for you. But to get back to the medical side of it, see your doctors, have your weekly examinations, see your dentist. Oh, and a little tip regarding cleaning your teeth. I once saw a movie years ago, when I was in the Navy actually. It was one of those recruitment type movies when the recruits watched all sorts of movies about damage control and all this sort of stuff. There was one about the Eskimos from northern Canada. They had no word in their language for toothache. I think I might have talked about this before. No language for toothache. Why? Because they never ever got a toothache. And why didn't they get a toothache? Because they used to chew on animal skins to make the skin soft. And they did this all the time. And this exercise on their gums eventually wore their teeth right down almost to the gums, but it was so good for them that they never got bad teeth. Even though they never cleaned their teeth, they just chewed on these skins, never had a toothache. So get into the habit when you clean your teeth. A few bites, maybe 50 chews or something on something hard, tough, like a bit of leather or hard rubber. Do that a couple of times a day. That'll keep your teeth right. Now people look at my teeth and say, God, Tom, those teeth. I'll tell you what, I haven't lost a tooth since I was in my late teens. I've had a few fillings. Any gaps and so forth were caused by drinking soft drink when I was a teenager. That's another thing. Sweet drinks, if you have them, if you can rinse your mouth out, do so. Okay, this is getting a bit long. So just to reiterate, exercise, do your yoga stretches, do your aerobics, walk every day, and if you don't walk, go to the gym, something like that. And of course, eat well, sleep well, and remember, even doing all of these things, you're only putting the decline back a little bit. Well, not a little, maybe a lot. Maybe a lot. A lot of people think I'm only in my 60s. That's true. I've heard people say that. You can do the same. You can push your age back or hold it in abeyance by doing all the sensible things. Just be sensible.